Okay. Sanbonan, Dumelang. This goes Makhafula, go live with Makhafula. Dumelang, hi guys, welcome. Hey,
Hola. Who's it? Sharp. Great.
I'm trying to sort out lentolez's technology, as into lezinjani.
I'm young shy.
Are you able to see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, now I can't put me like on grand.
Yeah. Maybe
okay.
Monga Kisangan.
Yeah.
No. When you're born.
Yeah, I mean, I want to clear actually. Yeah,
right,
this is also. Yeah.
I see into the like that.
Hey, now what they can't see me.
Oh.
Vito, hello. That's strange. Say you can't see me. Let's see. Is this better? Sanbonan, welcome everyone. Please let me know if you can see me and see our guest, Makhafula Vilakazi, Giftana. Duelang. So we have 15 so far.
Sanbonan.
Hey, Tebza Wana. Munjani.
No, ngikran njamona.
Okay, Simpia says they can see us. Mr. Makapani, welcome. Culture Review Magazine. Hello. So someone says they can't see my hair. Okay, man. I guess maybe it's a blessing in disguise because the saloon really is an issue. So they can see. Okay. So let me see. I'm gonna go get something for it to sit. I'll be right back. Just give me a sec while everyone else joins in. Okay. Dumelang, I'm sure this is much better. Okay. Guys, please let us know if you can see me. Yonkinte, Grandy, Kia, hello, BB. Welcome, everybody. Moment of silence. Okay, yes, moment of silence. These things are difficult. And for some of us who are trying new things, we always end up in this situation. But thanks, everyone. I see there's over 20 people who've joined. And yeah, Giftan, I think most people will probably join us as we go along. But thank you very much for joining me in these IG sessions. What I always try and do really is to keep the conversation very informal, more importantly, for it to be informative and we impart knowledge. So most of the time, people will drop their comments and Q&As insofar as they can, and maybe towards the end of our chat, we'll take some of the calls. But as I said, for me, it's really just to impart, inform, and for it to be a discussion, and it might at least be inclusive insofar as other people are concerned. So welcome, Giftana, and thanks for making time.
Sure, thanks for having me, man. And thanks to your, what do you say on Instagram? Is it listeners?
I'm a viewer. I know what you mean.
Yeah, thanks for joining in and then being part of this.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think you know, you and I really we come a long way. I don't know if most people know that, and you know, it was one of those things. See once in a while, but you know, fast forward later, we now get to chat and catch up in a different context. But you know, for those who don't know, Makhafula really is an attorney by profession, and he's a director of his own law firm, and he really has worked in some of the biggest law firms in South Africa, and he knows what he's doing. But for most people, you know, they know you as a poet and you know, as someone who really speaks on current affairs, for example, and issues of injustice, and more importantly, the message that you often convey with your poems and stuff. And I think, you know, that sets the precedent for what really has been happening of late throughout the country and the world. And I think sometimes before we even do global affairs, we at least need to consider issues here and see how best we can deal with it, and then see if we can at least learn something internationally. But before we even get into the details, I think maybe if, you know, we can open this with a proper live session, maybe something that you've either prepared or you have, and at least get, you know, the discussion going. So over to you.
So I'll just recite a poem.
Yeah.
Words. Words do not build, do not break, do not anger, do not love. People love. Words do not betray, do not kill. Words do not forget. Words cannot betray us or mask us or hide us as black monkeys. And without arms, words do not protect, do not agree, and being just words, they do not shoot. I hate words. They are words of truth. They are not the truth. They are not even lies. They are just words. I was not a man of words, nor was Makado. In fact, Musosho could not even speak. And yet, it was words that forgave. It was with words that Azania was married with Luthers in community of no property. And Umu Pikau. Ulo welane tabla pekand. Or ulo smile ngamasheta tatazelayo. Othandwa economy pethu amaxaxa. Othandwa ama-born free into poverty. Othandwa ondaba zikhanya igazi le-Afrika. Awusekho. Uxolile side lakho, mina ngakaxoli, ngisayibambe la yasemandulo. Angeke ngilale nesithi endlini. Angeke ngihleke nesexa liphethe okungokwami. Angixolela abantu abangaxolisanga, mina ngihlanye. Anginandaba nepeace, ipeace ayilayitwa ugesi ka, ugesi ulayitwa Eskom. Anginandaba ne-food security, ngilambe kumanje. Usiyaxolisa ifele ngiyamfrostana, but I cannot spring a bog, mina. I cannot die inside a square. I cannot kiss a boa or toy and dance to the same song. I do not want to socialize anymore or constitutionally prostitute my birthright for Hong Kong rainbows with no whites, just wilting black rays across the sky of stolen treasures. I do not want to black blood-based empowerment anymore. I do not want to tender or plead on behalf of thieves, to Rupert over step wounds, to dig treasures while singing your song of a piece of poverty. I miss the rhythm of Marikana bullets dancing inside my skull in a country about a movie built on magic. I do not want to white anymore. I do not want to rainbow without bread. I do not want to hate Cecil and anthem with his children, to shoot Hofmeyer and dance to Mikasa, to burn sparrows and mourn the deaths of Cleggs, to hate Eugene and thank Slovo, to joke and beg, to smile at my killer, to forgive while bleeding. I do not want to Musi and my Lima, to reconcile inside Middleburg coffins, to job for your song, to slave for your fund, your shirt, your dance, your globe capturing smile, your promise, your Matiba magic. I've buried it with the bones of my brothers in a shallow grave under the sweltering heat of the southern Marikana sky, because words do not break chains. That I do not want to South Africa anymore. I want to Azania of no words, of death, of birth, and learning white poison, colonial demons drowning in the Atlantic, Azania of exploding colonial bondages, Azania of no prayer, of no fists in the air anymore, Azania of beaming black smiles, black, beautiful, and borderless. I do not want to white anymore.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wow. Wow. yes. I mean, I'm looking at the comments. Definitely, you don't want to Azania anymore, and you know,
No, I want to Azania.
yeah, it talks to the current issues. You know, it talks to the history of oppression and inequality, and I think you really hit the spot there and you know, contextualize it. There are a lot of things that are currently happening, Makhafula, really in our country, and you know, as I said, for me, we need to look at the local context and say, what is it that we can do and stuff. You do know about Collins Koza, who was killed in Alexandra by the South African National Defence Force. We also know four other black brothers and who were also killed. And recently we have our sister who was killed a day ago in a police cell, and no one knows what has happened. And it is these type of things and issues that one really has to take into account and really look into that. And as a start, I just wanted to say to you, what is your view in relation to the state of play? What do you see happening? And could this then really, you know, epitomize a change insofar as where we want to go as a country, perhaps? Makhafula? I'm not sure if it's my network or anything. Please bear with us. I think Makhafula just exited the chat. He's about to join in a few minutes. I'm just having a chat with him. He's joining now. Stay put. He's coming. He's going to tell us about Azania and what these current affairs really signify from his perspective. And I'm seeing your questions. Thank you. I think, you know, the Gobs is asking if he has a poem about culture, religion, and tradition. I think, you know, words was one of that. Bantu Wonke is asking where to from here in relation to Black Lives Matter. And I think he will touch on that and also just give us a closing nice poem at the end of the day. So please bear with us and bear with me while I try and get Makhafula back. But what do you think about his opening poem and how he spoke about inequality and the fact that, you know, this lockdown, although it is important, it still perpetuated issues of inequality, food security, for example, and really would not necessarily have made a difference to the men on the street. Please drop your comments and your views and let me know whilst I get hold of Makhafula. Welcome to everyone who just joined. Makhafula was online a few minutes ago. He dropped a lovely poem entitled Words. I'm trying to get him back on live and he'll join us shortly. And, you know, I just want to hear from you who've heard him speak and Nimuzwa Kafula, as he normally does. What do you think of that? And does it hit, you know, a nerve of some sort? And, you know, where to from here, as everyone else has said? All right. He just responded on WhatsApp, says it's just coming back shortly, and just had a technical issue. His Wi-Fi just went down, but he's joining in. So please bear with me and Makhafula is joining, and perhaps because of Wi-Fi playing games, maybe he must just repeat words. I don't know what you guys think. If you are happy with that, and for those who've missed it, maybe Makhafula can just do it just for pleasure and control, given that his Wi-Fi has played games. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah. Definitely, but okay. Words twice sounds great. I'm seeing that. Makhafula will join us just now. He's joining. Batingome Mnandi Apindwa, so let's see what he has. For those who've missed it, we had Makhafula a few minutes ago. He came in and did the intro, and he dropped a piece entitled Words, and he's coming. We'll pick up from that, and maybe he can just repeat that just before we close our discussion. There he is. There you go. Welcome back, Barry. Yeah.
Sure. Hardy, I'm having some Wi-Fi issues here.
Not a problem, not a problem. And thanks for rejoining. I really appreciate it. You know, people have really loved your piece entitled Words. And I think, you know, just before maybe we close, you could probably hit us or with something else that you either have prepared for this discussion.
Sure.
But my question really just before the technical clash was, we are seeing a rise, and already as far as we know, there may well be more people who've been murdered by law enforcement officers in South Africa. And that obviously, you know, is something in my view that we really need to stand up for and speak about while we do incorporate what's happening globally. What is your comment on what you're seeing? And more importantly, where law enforcement officers are supposed to be upholding the law, protecting the people, and instead are killing our brothers and sisters?
Yeah, you know, like a couple of observations to me on this one. Yeah. One, I think it's become very apparent that a black life means nothing in this country. It means nothing even to black people. And if you look at these lockdown regulations, you can even see that the people who drafted them did not draft them with black people in mind, you know, because I think it should have been very clear that you are not going to be able to enforce a lockdown in a squatter camp, you know. And then to further bring in the army and try to enforce that, and then, you know, humiliate people like that, where people are made to do push-ups, people are made to roll in front of their children, you know. It was so humiliating. And to see black people doing that to each other, you know. For me, it was very sad. I mean, it says, back to the point, with like in South Africa, it doesn't really mean much. And if you look at it, you can look at Ukosa, you can look at what is happening with the army, but we can go back and say Andres Tatan, you know?
Yeah.
Andres Tatan was murdered by Abu Khata in public. We all saw it. There was no uproar about it.
Yeah.
Marikana, you know?
Yeah.
Many people were killed there by the state.
Yeah.
And we did nothing. In fact, the person who may or may not have been involved in it is now our president. So you can see we've sort of accepted it doesn't really mean much. We've accepted it. Well, it's always been the case in terms of the colonial legacy. It seems to be the case now with our leaders and even with ourselves. So I don't see us being outraged, you know, at the killing of Abantu Abamnyama. But if you for example, Ekasi, you know, I mean, if you grew up in Lokshin, you would know some of the guys that we grew up with were into crime and all of that stuff. Ne?
Correct.
And you remember, if Umuntu would have been accused of maybe shooting a white person, I mean, then you know, if you kill a white person, the state will come after you with all its might.
Yeah.
But if you just stab another person, another poor black person in a tavern, you know, it's not the same thing. So I think that has just underscored that for me.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and really, it's that battle. You know, Alex is what it is now. Kailicha is still Kailicha with the lockdown, and while it's important, and while we speak about the lockdown, I mean, COVID-19 at the end of the day took all of us by surprise. And in my view, I think it presented an opportunity, you know, for the world leaders, especially our African leaders, to reset a lot of things. You know, we are now, I think, at day 70, for example, and they could have done the us part insofar as saying, let us correct the injustices and see how we open the pie for everyone. But what do you think, you know, lacked or is lacking in terms of our African leaders to take, you know, opportunities like a pandemic and make sure that people really are empowered in relation to that?
Look, I don't think, and this is just me, you know.
Sure.
I'm not sure if the will is there to do it.
Yeah.
I think honest assessment in terms of where we are, you know. By African leaders, I mean, are these the same people who steal from the coffers of the states and then sit once a year in Ethiopia and have a conference to discuss the way forward for Africa? Are those our leaders? So, I mean, I think we have to make it. We have to at some point make a distinction between leaders and politicians, man. And politicians, in the main, are careerists. I mean, they are not. They don't have a deep concern for society. You know, they only do things and say things to advance themselves. And I think in Africa, in the main, we're led by politicians and not leaders per se. So I don't think a solution for Africa is really in, for me anyway. I don't think looking at states which are ruled by these politicians who are in the main corrupt. Some of them have been in power for 30, 50 years. And look for solutions from them. I think when we're going to talk about a true Pan-Africanism in the United States of Africa, it has to start with us, man. I think each one of us has got an individual responsibility to be able to contribute towards that vision. And each one of us is capable to do that.
No, and I hear you, and this then, you know, leads to the next, you know, question. We celebrated, you know, Africa Day not so long ago, in fact, a week ago, and we saw, you know, themes coming such as silencing the guns and stuff like that. But do you think this African, you know, or Africa Penny and the likes is something that is thought of? And my view is, you know, you have elders dominating the conversation and the youth being left out. Does Africa Day, for example, make a difference to the life of an African, be it in South Africa or in Ethiopia, for example, or anywhere, you know, in the world who looks up to this and start thinking about what, you know, Africanism means? More importantly, Makhafula, there's also mention and talk of, you know, a United States of Africa. But we also know that xenophobia and Afrophobia are big issues. I mean, you recently did a piece called Ukao, you know, where you speak about xenophobia and hate that is black on black. But really, do you see these days signifying anything? Do you think we can do something other than having these type of discussions with our African brothers and sisters to change the status quo?
Look, these discussions are important. We can't under because it has to start with a discussion. And people, the other people will say, "We do not talk. We can't always be talking, but it's very important to talk because there are very intelligent people out there who've got solutions, and they need to be heard, and we need those platforms for us to hear them. So I think I will just start with Africa Day. I learned recently that it's not actually Africa Day; it's Africa Liberation Day. So, you know, you learn everything, something new every day. And
100%.
Like thinking about it as Africa Liberation Day as opposed to Africa Day, for me, it just changed how I look at it because it's no longer a day to wear your dashiki or your traditional attire and celebrate your Africanness, which you can do every day. But it's actually a day where we can actually like reflect on our history as Africans, in particular on our history, you know, from the day that invaders set shores on our land. We can reflect on our struggles, our victories, our defeats, and we can then map a way forward on how we can best defeat this colonial monster, which, you know, has burdened us for centuries. So I think looking at Africa Liberation Day is a way to think about how we can actually liberate Africa from well, colonialism and neo-colonialism. And to acknowledge people who have contributed to that, you know, and maybe to go back to what, you know, because to take the baton from them, to say back to Nela, and then we can take it from here and run with it. So for me, that's what Africa Day means. And so far as Pan-Africanism is concerned, I mean, for me, Pan-Africanism is really the most practical and implementable solutions that can solve Africa's problems. There's 2 billion of us on the continent. We are the youngest population in the world. There's so much talent. But we're divided, you know, and we're divided along colonial borders. And if you can have those 2 billion people in one mind, in one soul, in one spirit, working towards one vision, I mean, no one can even match that force that we have, you know, if we do that. And so for me, that Pan-Africanism is very important for those reasons. And Pan-Africanism for me is obviously it's the United States of Africa, you know, one flag, no borders, one army, you know.
So it definitely starts with us. And I hear you. And I think, you know, it's incumbent then on us to, you know, occupy this position. It's incumbent on us to use our voices, be it on social media, you know, be it in certain platforms that we occupy, be it in corporate SA or otherwise, for us to be able to deal with these issues, for us to forge networks in and outside of South Africa and try and bring our brothers and sisters together and ensure that we, you know, take the agenda forward and really deal with this thing. But, you know, you get onto Twitter every day, you get hashtags that put South Africa first. There's frustration in relation to unemployment and the view that, you know, non-nationals, as they would call it, or foreign nationals, are taking jobs and stuff like that. But because of that division, it then becomes difficult to at least achieve unity. And how do we go about that? Because, for example, and I think Nico says this, in issues where there are protests for service delivery, you then find the first, you know, victims of that happens to be African brothers, for example, because they probably are scapegoats or so. How do we really bring things together, liberate the mind, and say to our people, this is not how to do it?
Yeah, I think you asked a very important question. And I see Nico has actually asked a very similar question. And to say, I mean, she says here, how do you take Pan-Africanism seriously coming from South Africa? And I think that's precisely the point. I think South Africa is not really, in my view, ready for Pan-Africa to be part of the United States of Africa. South Africa is still, whether we like it or not, is still a colony. It's still a settler colony. It's an extension of Europe. And it can never, until we attain true independence, you know, meaning the issue of the land, for instance, is one thing, and the right to be able, you know, because land gives us power to determine our own destiny, you know, 100%. Gives us our dignity. And once we have our land, that is only then that we can say that we are actually an independent state. And only then I think we can start a conversation around uniting with other independent states on the continent. I mean, not all states on Africa are independent for sure. I mean, there's neo-colonialism in all states, but I think South Africa is far behind. We are still very much a settler colony. And you see these things then playing out with xenophobia and the like. But I think they are just products of that. We are still a mini Europe. And obviously the legacy of apartheid has messed up our psyche. I tend to forgive Abantu for being, I mean, I don't think you can be angry at people for being xenophobic because it's from lack of knowledge and it's from indoctrination and it's from the apartheid legacy and it's from this thing, we've got so little and now we're forced to share the little that we have, you know? So what we need is to educate, you know, instead of like being angry and say, yeah, man, people are xenophobic, but we do need to educate our people. And
definitely. No, no, I agree with you, and you know that education would really go a long way. Puti, we see you and welcome and thanks for joining us. We are obviously as talking about the United States of Africa. Youth, this is Youth Month, and it comes at a time when we're all locked in and really can't do much. You know, what do you think, or what do you anticipate at the end of the day? What will come out with this Youth Month, if you were to predict anything for that matter? Are the messaging going to be the same, or you know, something new? I mean, if you look at the projections, we're looking at a 50% unemployment rate that is definitely going to increase. If you were to be given an opportunity to address, and I'm putting you on the spot here, having a Youth Day message, what would you say to someone who's listening, someone who follows you or otherwise, in terms of the challenges that they find themselves?
In terms of the youth?
Yeah, and because it's Youth Month, and
Yeah.
you know, we find ourselves, you know, under lockdown and these restrictions. But surely, I think people are tired of speeches. They're going to hear the same thing. Do you think something different can be said? And what would be different, really, or to say to people who are really looking for hope?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the problem is poverty. And the problem of poverty is linked back to landlessness.
Yeah.
So you can try and give people hope, but the fundamentals are not there, you know, and I'm talking about African youth here.
Yeah.
And in South Africa or in Azania. Without land, I mean, there's not really much that can be achieved, you know. So I think the message for me really is we need to continue to fight the struggle of our landlessness, and we need to get our land back. And yeah, for me, I think that's the primary struggle, because then all these other things can then be unlocked, you know. Unfortunately, I know it's not a hopeful message and it's not a solution-oriented message, but I think without land, really, there's not, it's like we're paralyzed, you know. But then you are being asked to, no, I mean, you know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But, you know, we've seen that. There's the proposed amendment to Section 25 and stuff like that. You know, the EFF, for example, is pushing that. The ANC also is also trying to come on board. And it has been in power for a while. And there have been instances where it was at least going to be possible to at least firstly amend the constitution and come up with certain ways of ensuring that, you know, we address those injustices of the past. But local government elections are in a couple of months' time, if everything goes well, and, you know, subject to, you know, any other extensions on Corona and stuff like that. The land issue is definitely going to become topical, and it's going to be a ticket for politicians. For someone who's going to hear this, you know, time and again, what does one do? You know, take it and say, I'm really now going to vote for this particular party because they're speaking on land, or do they have to do more and scrutinize that? And what would be more, for example, to discuss these particular issues related to land?
Look, political solutions are one form of solutions, you know.
Yeah.
But they are not the only solution. I think when it comes to the issue of land, it's topical. It's been topical for 25 years. It's been topical for 400 years.
Yeah.
So I think what I struggle with is we exist in a context of a democracy which is based on a constitution, which is based on a freedom charter, right?
Correct.
The freedom charter itself would then say all land belongs to all those who live in it and all that stuff. I don't believe that, you know. I think Africa belongs to Africans, you know, and it's a fact that in 1652 that, you know, the theft of that land started, you know, and we need to get it back, because this is a fight that has been had by Abu Teshwayo, it's been a fight that's been had by Abu Mushweshwe. For me, that fight continues, you know. Elections, politicians, rallies, manifestos, I mean, I'm not.
It's a difficult one. You're not sold when it comes to that. You know, and you know, just also for us to try and wrap up, and for you to just prepare your next piece. We obviously, again, where we started with Black Lives Matter, particularly in South Africa, I mean, there's talks of organizing a protest. And unfortunately, amongst other things, we find ourselves with these restrictions on COVID, you know, gatherings and protests being prohibited. I think we need to come up with a way, for example, where we would have proper demonstrations starting online and really put in pressure. I mean, you probably would have seen the Sandaf report on Collins Khoza, a proper whitewash, right? And no one cares. You spoke about Andre Statani, for example, live on TV. Fitzberg, as we speak, still doesn't have, you know, water today. Then he died while talking about water, protesting for water and stuff like that. But, you know, how do we then, towards the end, take a positive message and hope to our people and someone who's listening and tuned in now and viewing us and say it's going to be all right? What would we say? And what would you say, for example, if you were to give someone a message of hope other than all these, you know, hectic things that we've discussed?
Look, a message of hope to me, look, I don't have the solutions, right?
Yeah.
All I can say is that, like, what I know is that as African people,
yeah,
we have so much depth. We are so beautiful. We've got so much strength. We are masters of our destiny, and we need to believe that. You know, I think we need to start believing in our greatness as African people. And if you look at our history speaks for itself. The fact that it was interrupted at some point, and we now see ourselves through a colonial mirror. But I think we need to. I think for me, the most important thing is that you must start seeing yourself as you know, made in the image of God, a master of your own destiny. As an African, as beautiful, as smart, you know, like as all of these things that Marcus Garvey was talking about. And then I think from there, then you start understanding what you deserve and what you don't deserve. And then 100%. You start to understand your worth. And then only then can you be able to rise. Because if we got a poor self-image, then we start believing that we deserve certain things, you know, and certain things happen to us because we are blacks, and because we are black, we deserve to have these things. But I think once we start by imagining ourselves, not even imagining ourselves, realizing our greatness as Africans and as people, then we start understanding what we're entitled to and what we deserve.
100%. So effectively, it starts with us and within at the end of the day, and we really need to let that inner self really shine, and more importantly, build each other. You know, we really need to support each other as Abantu Amnyama in particular, you know, and make sure that we look out for each other. This talks to opportunities out there. If you know of a gig, for example, and you don't have the expertise, you know, call out your other brother and say, listen, you know, you can strive on this and you can thrive. You can do what you can at the end of the day, and make sure that you prosper. And I think because of that, it can take us forward. You know, someone is talking here about 4IR and technology coming in together. And, you know, is it going to help? Is it an opportunity? We have, you know, toilets in Limpopo that are still to be installed. Students are using and learners pit toilets. It's a difficult one, but I think with your message of hope, insofar as let us embrace each other, let it start with us, there's an opportunity. But, you know, on the last point, and I think, you know, people have been calling for maybe a last piece from you, and then we can look at the 2 more or 3 questions that are coming in. Is there something that we can just put up and then just, you know, leave us with some words of encouragement and a poem of some sort, and we can see if there are 2 or 3 questions that would come in, and we can close this discussion.
Okay. I'll do a poem. Well, I have to find it first.
Yeah, no worries. We got time. yeah, thanks guys for also tuning in. And if you have questions that you would like to, to pose to myself or Makhafula, please do so on the comments, and we'll pick those up. I think he's just going to drop a piece, and then we can then start engaging with you instead of it just really just becoming a dialogue between myself and him. Over to you when you are ready.
Zimgalazile ukawincosi zikaNkulunkulu eRamaphoyisa. Akabuyele eMaputo man. Akaboni thina sifuna ukuzihluphekela. Asifune kuhlushwa amakwerekwere thina South Africa, asikho eAfrika. Angesohlambela amashangana nokwamakhwapha nefish man. Futhi lenja yehlisa iprice yokushefa. Isibalekisela ama-custom uyasikhosta. Kumele amashe kwayizolo man. Sisale thina ama-South Africans ngiyahula azoletha emabhunini wethu. I mean, yini abaxosha makubo? Thina ngeke usibone Somalia thina. Thina singamapasi thina. Singama-South Africans nababhunu wethu abamashe kwayizolo. Bamfaka itosi neparasu kawe Ramaphoyisa bamzwanga. Uthe uyabaleka. Wow. Ecabanga umagodo wakhe nabantwana abakhula ngempuphu nethemba. Wathi uzama ukuthela iphase, wakhathala epathisini, wagebhukeka, wapisha, wavuka sebemnamathelo manje imjondolo ngama-10 nama-5 pounds. Wathandaza ukawo. Wathandaza ngesigigamba. Bamlaho gogjola nepension baseRamaphoyisa. Amhudula ama-community leader. Bamthatha abafana bamkapa ngeharasi. Bengakamlayithi bamkhumbuza okugcina ukuthi nasezulwini abatshela impela ukuthi umuntu eSouth Africa uzulu nabanye nakuyena umuntu. Ayitshele futhi nenkosi yakhe ukuthi mayembuyisa ingambuyise eyishangane. Bamrola ngeduve njengofaro. Bamhasa ngesigubhu sikababa kasebenzi. Bashaya igwitshe likaSamora Mashele. Zalilizela iy'nsaza zakhona. Bashaya amafleti abomjwayiti imjondolo. Bamfaka esekeleni bamlayita. Wascream uka. Wasilahlela emhlabathini. Ezama ukucinikela ngabile nzondo kadaki. Warola, wavuka, warola, wawa, wascreama, wahlihlizela, waqhuma amehlo, wameltha ngomemi nilibalelo kawethandaza, washukuma eAfrika ngobudala bayo. Peace. Peace amongst the Africans. Sondela please Jesus Christmas omhlophe. Onamablonde akheliwe negawuni emhlophe nama-sandals. Sifuna wena demonstrate uzosithethelela. Sisho sigagwele siqedele imisebenzi izolo. Sifa ngawe kuphela Jesus Christmas omhlophe. Esikuplaka ema-room divideni, usilahlela ama-sandals, ushaya iwine nempitshi zakhe eziyi-12. Kungakho abantwana bethu befunde ama-multiracial bensundu. Bekhuluma isilungu nabogogo endlini bensundu. Benamagama esingawazi noshiya ukuthini bensundu. Bekwazi ukubiza ibhunu ngoseko kodwa umAfrika emdala bembize ngoma friend kodwa bensundu. Kungakho simnyama sishada ama-white wedding. Sitibhetha abo-Karl Marx abangakhulumi nangathi. Kungakho umAfrika eyikwanga. Kungakho kunomuntu kuneshangane. Kungakho kunamasimbe country abizwa nge-South Africa. Sijutshela ngencwadi kaMateyu sizongcwaba umchunu sithandaza. Sibiza uJames verse 13 sizongcwaba umphafudi sithandaza. Sithandaza sibiza uJesu waseNazaretha thina sihlupheke eSoweto sithandaza. Sithandaza sibheke phezulu sithandazela uBrakoto ongenandaba nosizi likadaki. Bamgalazile ukawe Ramaphoyisa bodaki. Bavuka bageza bathandaza babhema bagibela amateksi namagari boxina ama-ofisi amakhula namagxaxo ezweni lokhokho babo. Peace amongst the Africans. War against the enemy.
Hey, yeah, peace amongst the Africans. Thanks Makhafula. I listened to Ukau in the mornings, and it really sets that context, and it's true. We really need to think differently, embrace each other, and unite as Africans. And I'm really hoping that after all is said and done, we are not going to see people who are obviously frustrated and our brothers and sisters become, opportunists of these type of things. So thank you for that, and thank you for really emphasizing the message of peace amongst Africans, and it's that. So thank you once again for joining in, and
Sure.
let's just check out what the questions are. And I think, really, if we had more time, would take this longer than expected, but I really always would want to hear from what people are saying and what their views are on these discussions on any topic that they would want us, for example, to cover and discuss. So over to you, viewers, and do drop in your questions while we go through some of the comments. Someone says, Scarlet musicality speaks about the youth of 1976, the youth of 2020. Different time, but this is the same struggle. And then someone says, for me, that just sums up my thoughts. And I thank you for this engagement. Thank you for the poet for being a voice to those who are defied by the words when we can't speak. Definitely, our poet tops peace amongst Africans. Bongza is asking, is Africa's problem not education, Africa-centered education? How do people understand Africa and Africans if they're not educated? I think that's an important question.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
that's absolutely 100% agreed. We need education, we need development, we need an economy. And all of these things are important. I think the most important, one of the most important thing that I take from Bongza is what the kind of education that we need. You know? You can go to vets and they will tell you that your history begins in 1652 with the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck. But there is literature out there which tells you about like where you come from, you know. And I think we need more of those intellectuals coming to the fore. We need to push that kind of literature, and I think that's why today's youth, particularly when you talk about like if fees must fall, for instance, for me they're very, very important for that, because they were not just demanding free education, but they were demanding free decolonized education, and I think that was such an important component of it. So I agree with that.
Definitely, and I think it needs to continue as well. You know, that demand of an education that instead of it commercially being, you know, packaged, it needs to really talk to us as Africans, for example, and can at least help us, you know, to Bongza's question of how do we get it right, and having an education that is really, you know, African or orientated. And I hear you. I totally agree with your views, Bongza. I see Scarlett talks about education being a double-edged sword, you know, given the fact how it keeps gatekeepers where they are and the indoctrination that goes with it. But I think we've discussed this, that if we decolonize it and make it more, you know, suitable for an African audience, it's exactly what we need, and it can really just change the status quo.
But I think also I see a bit in terms, look, I think I see what Scully is saying in a bit, because it's such a multi-layered system of oppression that we need to overcome, you know. There's capitalism as well, you know, which creates gatekeepers. So, you know, we also need to think about what economic system is this United States of Africa going to adopt, you know? Are we going to use capitalism, or going to use communism? Is it going to be a socialist state? You know, is it going to be an African state? I think I always hold the view that from an economic point of view, we were running successful economies and empires before settlers came. And that must have been based on sound economic principles. And I think we need to revisit those.
100%. I know I see people are sending love and very appreciative of this discussion. Ms. Lavi, we see you. Bantu Wonke, I totally agree. He's definitely fruitful. You know, are you writing a book, Skim? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but is it something that you've thought of? And what's the view there? And
I'm writing something.
Yeah.
I'm writing something. I'm not sure if it's called a book.
Definitely.
I'm writing something, and I think now it's at editing stage. So I think probably sometime next year, something should be able to come up early next year.
No, that's super.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
well, it's just a compilation of poetry and memoirs.
100%. Yeah.
So
No, it's about time. I saw earlier on one of the comments, and this was also that question that we need material from you and stuff. And I'm glad that, you know, whoever is listening and watching, and when we share this, something is definitely coming from you, and we're looking forward to it. You can see the loves, you know, spiraling out of control, because we need that. We need, you know, different form of a voice that talks to current affairs, that talks to where we are, and the like. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait. Makati is watching. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
100%. But yeah, no, thank you, Makhafula. The Corps is asking, what are your thoughts on the current laws, for example, slaughtering of animals, which is, versus rituals in estates? That's a very topical one. What is your view? My view really is, listen, I'll do what I have to do in terms of my culture or otherwise. If it means that the SPSCA must come through and people litigate because of that, so be it. We can't really change who we are and conform. I know the rules of an estate and stuff like that, but surely there must be a compromise. I don't stay in an estate, by the way, but I think there must be a way of the fact that certain things are allowed on certain days. Let them allocate the spot. I'm speaking for myself, but I don't know. What's your view, Makhafula?
No. I don't think I think such laws make absolutely no sense. There's no reason why we should not be able to practice our culture in Africa.
Yeah.
That what those things to me make absolutely no sense. But as you would know, the law is the law, and the people who are able to enforce their rights are people with the money, and which in the main tend to be white people. So that's like a problem with the law. I don't think constitutionally there's anything wrong. I think if that matter was to come, look, I don't know if there's any judgment on it, but
yeah,
I mean, even if you look at this constitution, which I am critical of, I don't think it prohibits people from practicing their culture. And if someone was to take it all the way up there, I think they would win.
No, 100%. But yeah, we need these type of test cases, that we need to pick up. What we are doing from a country duty perspective, we teamed up with a black-owned law firm where we need, we'll be taking a public interest type of cases and litigation. And interestingly, after that tweet, I think on Monday or Tuesday, there have been so many people who are coming and saying they have various skills, such as, content creators, some other lawyers and other organizations that says, this is what we want to do for our people. So I just wanted to just give an update and say, it's time we also create our own and really bring things to the fore. And you are right insofar as skills and knowledge that we have. Let's combine that knowledge base. Let's really help our people in whatever way that we can. And let's sell our skills and stuff. So I know last time when I had this chat, I think at 1856, it literally just cut. And I want us to just, sign out nicely.
Okay.
And
all right.
stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for really joining these sessions, Makhafula. I really appreciate the discussion. More importantly, to everyone who's tuned in and watched this, thank you so much. It will be available on IGTV. We'll also see how we can download it so that Makhafula can also share, including myself, and we publicize it on the various social media platforms. But thank you once again, and hopefully next week we'll have another session. Watch out and do follow us on our handles, both on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Thank you very much, Njam. I really appreciate your time.
No, and thank you very much for the, what you call, what you say, viewers.
Yeah.
But I think participants, because I think it's been very engaging. I've been looking at the comments here and I see they've been very deep and important questions that are asked, in particular to how this United States of Africa must look like. And I think it's a conversation that needs to continue. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me out here. And look, I think we have to have a conversation offline. We would like to also to contribute to what your initiative that you're doing there on country duty.
No, I definitely
appreciate that. We'll talk about that.
No, Sisonke. And thanks everyone. Have a safe weekend. Yes. Oh, the last thing. We know Twala Vuliwe and stuff. We're already seeing this is quite serious. Let's drink responsibly. Let us really not perpetuate the stereotype. I think let us be our keepers. Let's make sure that it's the timing at the end of the day. Not that don't drink, but let us do what we can to minimize you are tweeting, you are hurt or something like that. I think we need to be responsible and be each other's keepers. So that's just my part in short. And thank you once again, everyone.
No, thanks. Sure.
Sure. All right.